Hey guys, welcome back again to the Cut Light and Smoke podcast presented by Zeal Cigars and brought to you by the Huddle Up Store Studios. We are coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona, where it is a bit chilly here. It's about 62 degrees, maybe it's 70 out right now. Is it 70 yet? 75 degrees. Wow, it's got warm.
I was like a bit chilly, dude. It was nice this morning.
I know, it was nice. It was really, really nice on the ride in. So you rode your bike in, I rode my bike in, and it's great. And so JB's got a Harley Davidson Road King, 2022. And I got a 2008 Suzuki M109R. We are masculine men sitting here talking about cigars, men, and culture. And that's what this podcast is about a little bit. Evidently, there's a rumor going around that we're a Christian podcast, which is great. I love Jesus and everything else like that. But someone goes, I hear a Christian podcast. I'm like, not really, but yeah, I appreciate it though, which is kind of fun. We do talk a lot about God and stuff like that here because it's important to our lives. And so it's kind of an outlet for us to talk about the stuff that we're passionate about and excited about while we smoke a cigar. So we're not necessarily reviewing the cigars that we're smoking, but we definitely tell you the cigars that we're smoking while we are smoking them. So JB, tell them the cigar that you're smoking because it was just done on a video we just dropped on Best Cigar Reviews on YouTube if you want to see more about cigars. What are you smoking, JB?
Camacho Triple Maduro.
Triple Maduro. You liking it?
It's very good.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
It's very good.
I'm smoking Foundation's Tabernacle Double Corona, which JB picked my cigar and I picked his cigar for each other. So we did a whole little scenario on like what's a good cigar between, $9 and $15 that you can get for somebody for the holidays. And that's what JB would have chose me. That's why I chose JB. So definitely know my palate. That's good. Definitely know my palate. So, but we're talking about a subject today, which is kind of fun. And JB we literally just rolled in from one video into this one. And he mentioned it, and we just started talking. I'm like, dude, now let's do the podcast now. Let's just get into it.
We'll do it live.
I know we'll do it live. Let's go. And I think the how do we want to couch the subject? The subject is about.
I would say that like there's things in the world of professional sporting that I think has brought a lot of people into it.
For the wrong reasons,
viewership wise,
for the wrong reasons,
but has pushed like people, at least me personally,
people who are authentic sports lovers.
I've really lost interest in professional sports the last like 3 to 4 years.
So how would you title this? Would you title it as vintage sports lovers lose interest due to new people coming on and new ways?
I would just say like cultural shift in sports.
Okay, that sounds great. I like that. So the cultural shift that we're talking about, it was funny because JB asked me, he says, do you think more people are watching football? And when I was back in Ohio, I had a buddy named Justin, shout out to Justin Kruger. And we were talking about just guys in sports in general and how men just like sports and we like watching gladiatorial type stuff, particularly gladiatorial type sports like football, full contact, anything, even basketball, things like that. And then UFC, things like that. And he looked at me and says, yeah, it's weird to find a guy who doesn't like sports, particularly in Ohio. I mean, Ohio is a sports capital, kind of a state in America. It really is.
They breed just about anything and everything out there, man.
They really do. More NFL people come out of Ohio and that region right there, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana. It's just crazy. So, but I will say this, as we get into it, we start talking about people watching sports. Now, when I moved to Phoenix, I was absolutely shocked to find that there's certain young men, particularly a young guy I used to work with, and you guys know who that is. He never watched sports. He never participated in team sports. He was kind of a single sport guy, and I thought that was really fascinating. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. And I think if you don't participate in team sports, I think you're hampered in life personally. I think there's a great value that team sports can teach you, working together on a team and everything else like that. It's less narcissistic than single sports. I think a lot of sports that are single sports like wrestling or anything else like that. I mean,
oh, dude, even me running track,
right?
It's really hard to.
You're not really part of a team, yeah.
I mean, you are, especially if you're on a relay,
but you're not.
But you're not. Yeah. So like, it's really hard, especially in that kind of a sport, to not. So I feel yourself too much. So I'm not dogging people who are in single lane sports, but when you're part of a team and you work together as a team to overcome obstacles, that could teach you a lot about life in general and things that you have to do. Speaking on that really quick, as somebody who's been a part of a lot of different teams, baseball, whatever, right? We can keep going. Mm-hmm. When I ran track both in high school and college, my most memorable and proud moments were not individual. They were with my dudes, the guys that I was in the trenches with every single
your
day,
brothers.
putting in hours of work.
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
We both and all succeed. Like we won conference one year in track in college. And that's a big deal because when you beat a school like Mount Union, you're talking guys like Cecil Shorts, Pierre Garcon. Those guys are NFL players with some of the fastest times still in Division III college athletics. So, yeah, dude, like winning that conference with the whole team and then winning the 4x1 championship with those guys and going to nationals with that team. I actually dropped out of the 200 at a regional tournament to make it to nationals to get a better seeding because I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to win with my dudes.
Right. So I'll show you how this actually benefits you as a young man in particular. If your young sons want to play team sports, something like that, I would highly encourage them to play team sports. For example, I'm 30-something years removed from high school, okay, and high school football in particular. Now, I coached varsity football and everything like that, and I enjoyed it, but I haven't coached in many years. And recently, my old high school football quarterback called me and texted me on the phone and said, I'm coming out to Phoenix. I want to hang out with you, Reith, and just, see the town and everything like that. I was enamored. I was so excited about it. And I mean, he was a great football player. He was not nearly as good as he was. And I think it was really, really cool that brotherhood that you had way back when, and we've talked ever since, we're both believers and things like that. So we've got a lot in common, to see like what that does and how that history builds even out. So I'm looking forward to Chad coming out here and we're going to talk with him and everything. Can't wait for that actually. But so Dor, if you're watching this, man, I can't wait till you land here in Phoenix. It's going to be great. We're going to paint the town red, or, however hot it's going to be, it's probably going to be orange. So, but either way, we're talking about professional sports in particular. And now with professional sports, you were talking about something that you think is really ruining it. And so what do you feel is ruined about professional sports in particular?
Well, man, this is a weird conversation because there's a lot of people that probably definitely don't feel the same way as I do. But I've seen a really big shift, especially in the last 5 years. And I would say a lot of it has to do with the money that fantasy sports brings in now. And then you encompass that with legal sports betting now in a lot of states, right on your phone. You don't have to have a bookie or go to a casino to make these sporting bets anymore.
Right.
You just open your phone.
Yeah.
And take money right out of your bank account.
Oh yeah.
So for me, like even the people that I'm around that are or were hardcore sports fans that watch a lot of sports, the only thing I hear them talking about now are their fantasy teams and the bets that they're making and how much money they lost the last bet and how much money they're getting the next bet. And then you see some of that stuff translating over into baseball and other sports and things like that. For example, a couple years ago, I found out that the MLB had changed some rules and they were using two different types of baseballs in regular games. Some of the balls were juiced because they needed more home runs to start happening to try to bring excitement
people back to a boring sport
to baseball, right?
Yeah.
Plus, they shortened the time and things like that, to help viewership.
It's dying sport.
Long story short, well, I don't think it's dying, but it wasn't in a great space as America's pastime. It wasn't in a
America's
great space.
pastime, 100%, but it's been dead for the last couple years. And this is saying this is, I have friends who've played in the major leagues and stuff like that, and I'm not dogging what it is. And people who love baseball. I mean, they're dedicated fans, but.
Well, I mean, compared to Super Bowl, if you really look at the numbers, yeah.
I mean,
and
literally,
COVID really hurt.
Yeah,
the COVID years.
But yes, but here's the thing though. So when it comes, and quite frankly, there's only 2 or 3 sports I ever watch on TV. One I watch religiously, and that's football, college and NFL. Okay, and then I watch basketball once in a while when it's interesting. And then I watch the World Series, the baseball.
Okay.
I'll watch the World Series if you would. So, but I never watch baseball on purpose necessarily because I think it's really boring. I've been to multiple games. It's the most boring sport I've ever seen. But I will say, outside of golf, I think golf is just, anyways. But and that's not because I can't play it. That's because I'm just not really interested. And that's just me. And it's nothing wrong if you like baseball and you like that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I will say this though, when it comes down to what you're talking about with the fantasy stuff. Now we have whole channels with ESPN and NFL.com.
That's all they're talking about.
That's all they're talking about. And because people make money this way. They make a lot of money. So people are making a ton of money doing this stuff. And and I'm not against making money, but what I do see happening is people watching sports for a completely different reason than you usually watch sports, for the competitiveness of it. And keep this in mind too. This is a huge thing, and this isn't because I'm a Christian or anything else like that. I've never been a gambler. I just never have. I mean, the only time I think is my kids would beg to differ with me, because I used to play poker every Wednesday with my buddies and everything like that, and they would be like, "Yeah, Dad, you spend like $5 to $10 every Wednesday." I'm like, seeing the new the next movie coming out in the theater is more of a gamble than playing with my buddies for 3 hours for $15, right? And I don't care if I win or lose. I'm just there to smoke cigars, play poker, and have a fun time. So that's never a gamble for me. A gamble would be something like, here's $1,000 on something that I hope comes through.
Yeah.
Even if I got a hot line on it, somebody told me, hey, this is a sure bet or something like that. I don't necessarily play the stock market that way either, or my investments that way either. I try to go diversify the portfolio and stuff like that, and let my stockbrokers and guys who know that stuff tell me more than I try to find myself. So, but our conversation off air was about people coming into the sports now just wanting to make money from them, or being interested in them for the potential of them making money. Well, why do you think that is?
Well, I'm going to pause that one.
Okay.
Come back to it. But I'm going to even go a little bit deeper on it with like the fantasy football.
Okay.
To where I almost wonder if like players sometimes are just like, they hear people talking about them getting them fantasy points or not getting them fantasy points, and then they're just like, I'm not going to get that extra 5 yards today. Forget all you guys.
Or if they bet on themselves.
Yeah, dude, like
through other people,
dude. And
they can do that, dude.
Oh my God,
they can do that.
This is a whole nother subject now.
Yeah, they could. Yeah,
because Pete Rose is still sitting on his high horse with splinters in his ass because he wouldn't come out and apologize for cheating, or betting on his own team. Now that that's legal and people can actually kind of do that, it's so weird, man. Like, I don't know. Me personally, and my circle of people that I hear, like, I game every weekend, and every Sunday morning, the conversation is, what are the parlays? What are the bets? What are this? What's that? You know what I mean? So, and yeah, dude, it just eats me. And hey, you had a conversation with somebody who's actually made some money doing it.
Oh, I have friends that have made hundreds of thousands of dollars betting. Yeah, make no mistake. There's professional people I know, professional gamblers I know, that have made major money. I have a good friend of mine that walked away with about $120,000 in Vegas once. So it's really interesting when you think about this and you think about the money involved in it. I mean, $120,000, that's a year's salary for a lot of people. And more than a year's salary for a lot of people. And so when that comes down to it, you're thinking through like, okay, how does this work out, and what is this teaching me to value in what I'm watching? These people are, and then you get super angry at somebody because they didn't perform the way that you wanted them to perform, and maybe the guy was just having a bad day, but you lost hundreds of dollars on it or thousands of dollars on it. Like,
really, you couldn't give me 2 more points, man? That's like 1 more yard, dude.
That's what they yell at the screen. I've been there. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is, and every time I kind of chuckle to myself, I'm like, I'm just glad. This is why I don't bet. This is why I don't gamble. This is why outside of friendly bets between, I'll buy you lunch if the Bengals lose or something like that. Which, all those times that's all. That's not what I'm talking about. People who make a living at doing this. So I think most men, if they're interested in this, they're interested in gambling and betting on stuff. It makes you devalue the sport, and or it takes away something that's very holistic about the competition itself, in my personal opinion. What do you think?
It's not as organic anymore,
no,
right? So like if you go to like the Cherokee tribe in the Eastern Band tribe in North Carolina, right?
Okay,
and you watch them play stickball.
Yeah,
there is nothing they're playing that for except for the pride of their their specific group of family inside the tribes, right? So like there's different branches of Cherokee, and they, different areas that come and go against each other, right? And it's nothing but pride.
Right.
There's another one in Italy, I think. It's kind of like, I think it's Italy. It's a kind of a rugby game, and they literally just take all of I think there's 4 or 5 different sub-cities, and they they all break them up and they all have their own team and they go and they play and they just do it once a year. And it's just a gladiatorial, like, we just do this for our pride, for our community, for our, our borough, whatever you want to call it, right? Our section of the town, our hood. And that's it, man. And then they go home, they shake hands, and that's that. I'm sure there's betting and stuff like that on the side of that. I'm sure there is. But I don't know, man. It just like, I don't know. It makes me feel dirty, man. I feel dirty watching a lot of sporting events now.
I think the danger is it does a couple of things. One, I see the appeal because it broadens your horizon to be interested in multiple teams, not just your own home team. It also,
I would say more people are more interested in other games outside of just their team because of fantasy football and betting. I would agree with that.
But I think the thing at the time that it expands that and it's a value add, I guess, with gambling, or playing fantasy football, or whatever you want to do, the devalue. I have friends that have actually made money, doing this in gambling and so on and so forth. I had a buddy make $120,000 in Vegas one time. So
on sports betting,
I think he was playing. I think he was gambling a different way, but not sports betting. I know he's made a lot of money on sports betting though.
Wow.
So as a result, I think that there can be a danger in that, and I think it does two things. One, it enables you to value the positive that it feels like is that it expands your vision of sports beyond just the game itself and your home team and your home pride. And also it devalues the people actually playing it because that's just a commodity for you to move or for you to bet on to make your money. And if it doesn't, and if he or she doesn't perform the way that you want them to, then all of a sudden you don't like that person, or you don't value them enough, or you don't value them at all. So they're just commodities. That's all they are. And you're just trading them for the sake of getting more money, getting this, and so on and so forth. So I think that's something that I have seen in conversation with people where I'm talking about a certain guy and I'm like, I like that guy. I'm like, yeah, man. And in the conversation, like, that guy actually made me like hundreds of dollars last week. And I'm like, oh, well, that's good. And they're like, yeah, but if he would have done this, he would have done that. I'm like, well, yeah, he's a good guy though, man. He's a good guy. Well, who cares how good he is? He didn't do this. And I'm like, oh, so it's all a matter of performance, man. It's all about performance, and it's a commodity. So when people become a commodity, I got a problem with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. You brought up a couple things that I found really interesting because, like, as a sports fan, you get mad at your team when they make mistakes anyway. Like, I'm a New Orleans Saints fan.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that missed tackle in that Vikings game. Never. They should have went back to back, dude. I don't know what happened with that tackle in that Vikings, or not back to back, but New Orleans should have been there that year. And something fishy happened, and he missed that tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you start adding the extra layers of like, now you're mad at your team because they lost, but now you're mad at your team because you lost money on the bet. Then you're mad at your fantasy football team, which is also probably has players from your favorite team on it because you're biased and you're going to take a good player from your favorite team. Right. So then it adds an extra layer of, like you're saying, right? Like how are these guys competing in professional sports right now starting to get any different than the gladiators that almost would have back then, other than they have a choice to not to, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys didn't, in gladiatorial times, didn't have a choice. It was, die or live by living.
Sure.
These guys obviously have much more of a choice, and they get paid, and they have, fairly good lives for it. But yeah, dude, that's using people to make money, man.
And that's why I don't fault NFL players when they get these big contracts and everything else like that with Kyler Murray or Joe Burrow or anybody of those guys. Those are two of my teams, Cincinnati Bengals and the Cardinals. I mean, I'm from Cincinnati and I live in Arizona. So when they get these big contracts and they don't perform the way they would, I'm like, look, man, I didn't think Kyler Murray deserved that kind of contract to begin with.
Yeah, is it on them or is it on the people that evaluated them and gave them the contract?
Yeah, it's on that person. Yeah, 100%. It's not on them. They did what they could, and they thought, they're trying to get their money because the average NFL player lasts 3.5 years. That's the average. That's the average overall. So, I mean, if you get more than 5 years out of an NFL player, way to go. So these guys are trying to make all their money for a lifetime in just 3 to 5 years. Yeah. They really are,
which is why they fight so hard for it.
Right, absolutely. So, but when that person becomes a commodity, I think what gambling does to that degree. I'm not talking about little bitty bets with your friends and things like that. But when you get into professional gambling and everything like that, I think the danger of that isn't just the addiction and the rush. I think it's the devaluing of human life for your own personal gain. I think that's the problem that I have with it. And I think it'd be a dangerous spiral, to be honest with you.
I'd be interested because we actually have some guys that are still pretty connected professionally. I actually have a personal friend that has bounced around in the league pitching. You actually have somebody who's retired from, long story short. I would be curious to see what professional athletes think about this. Like, do they see themselves as being looked at as more of, like you're saying, like a commodity or as an item than ever before? Or are they not really feeling that from that side of things with like the betting and things like that and fantasy teams? Like, I'd be curious to see what a mindset of an actual player would be on that topic.
Yeah, that'd be. Are you going to repeat the question you just said? Because you said it last time. Okay. I think a lot of professional athletes do feel like commodities versus like, appreciated for their sport. Now, we appreciate them by paying the money to come see them and everything like that. So I'm not saying that they have a right to be, hoity-toity about anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that in our minds and in our hearts, they become commodities for us to make money off of versus appreciating the sport they're playing and just paying them to play the sport, if you would.
Yeah.
So I think that's what professional gambling is doing, and I think all the stuff that's happening and some of the DraftKings, everything else like that, it's kind of crazy. It really is. So I'm not like an anti-gambler or anything else like that. I'm just saying I would really watch it to make sure your heart's in the right place. And I know when I say this kind of stuff, there's some guys are going to tune out and be like, heart in the right place. I'm all about my money, man. What's the matter to you? The problem is if you devalue human beings continually through everything else, as men as it is, it's already hard enough to respect each other as it goes. To bring somebody down to a notch of being a commodity for you to bet on for the purpose of performing to your liking so that you can make money off their performance, it devalues them. There's no other way to say it. It's just true. It really is.
Yeah.
And that could be a dangerous thing. So so much so that if you get wrapped up into that world, you finally end up meeting your sports hero. You may not like them because they lost you money somewhere, right? In the big game, like you were just talking about the tackle. I'm like
from New Orleans.
Yeah. So like, for example, like I can remember meetings. I don't know if you've ever met any legends before. I've got a chance to meet some really good legends, like Anthony Munoz from Cincinnati Bengals in the 80s and 90s. I mean, incredible offensive tackle, Hall of Fame tackle. Got a chance to meet him. I had no preconceived notions before I met him. When I met him, I was like, man, this guy's a great guy, super nice, everything else like that. Really, really cool guy. He's a great football player. Now, had I lost a bunch of money and he missed a block and everything else like that, and then I met him, it may have completely changed the way that I saw him. I'm like, dude, you missing that tackle in the Super Bowl, you doing this in the Super Bowl, you ruined my life because I bet $10,000 on that and I'm out $10,000. That kind of thing, man.
I'm going to get cheesy, but the movie The Replacements with Shane Falco, you still haven't seen this.
I know.
Keanu Reeves plays a quarterback named Shane Falco. And his character in the movie, long story short, played as a quarterback at Ohio State. And he played in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
And every single person in the movie, when they first meet him in the movie, goes, "Oh, Shane Falco. Man, you really sucked in that Sugar Bowl." And then he meets the field goal kicker. His name's Nigel Gruff. He's from Wales. And he goes, "Man, lost a lot of bloody freaking money on that game. You sucked."
Right.
I could smell the stink all the way back to Wales. And then he starts whistling, "Ole, ole, ole, ole."
So I'm telling you, man, I think that's the danger that we're talking about. We're talking about people in professional sports and what we have to do and everything else like that. And that's part of what we're having to deal with at this time. So, but we want to know what you guys think. So what do you think? Do you think we're off kilter in the things that we're talking about? Do you think that we're missing something? Or do you think that this professional betting and things that we're getting in is devaluing people that play professional sports? Or do you think it's a plus? Drop a comment below because I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
That's why I can't wait for the Olympics to come back, man. It's one of the few sporting events still in this world outside of like the world championships and different events where you're literally just going for your pride and for the pride of your country.
Well, not only that,
that's it.
It's this summer, isn't it? The summer is
2024.
2024, yeah.
Yeah, so this summer.
Yeah,
this
summer.